everyone, welcome back to Painted Studio. I am Maury Curtis Dunbar, your host of many messes. It is Thursday, it's warm, but it's very rainy here in Illinois, so my hair's going with that, but we are now going to just do some other fun stuff today. The day before yesterday, I started with some old world finishing paint techniques. We did light distressing, we did heavy distressing and glazed, so you can see the difference today. We're going to show top coats and waxes. We're also going to share a couple of other techniques. We're going to do some distressing and some layering of colors and showing the differences that can make. And it might be a little loud for a few minutes, so be prepared. All right, I'm going to flip the camera down just a little bit so you can see where I'm working. Okay, so this one that we did day before yesterday, we put Old World Finishing Paint in Sapphire and the base color, and then Old World Finishing Paint in Steel over it. So today, what we're doing is also another piece that we already have a layer of Old World Finishing Paint on in Celery, which is a lovely light green color. And we're going to take a rock and beat the tar out of them. This is going to be loud, so if you don't want to hear this, turn it down until I stop banging, because I promise you I won't be talking. Now, the one thing is, this is a piece of granite from a countertop that one of my clients has. This usually actually works better if you can find regular rocks out of your backyard, something that you can just wash, throw it in the dishwasher, clean it up, and then you can use it to bang away. This is going to give me some harder edges that I don't really want, but it will work for this demo. So what we've done on this one, there is one layer of paint, and then we're going to hit it with the rock. So I've really distressed the tar out of it. But what you can see if you look closely at this, because I use that piece of granite, there's a lot of kind of straight lines in it. That doesn't look quite as natural. You can beat it with a hammer, you can beat it with just about anything, but rocks usually work best. Now this has 2 layers of paint on it, and I'm gonna hit it with the hammer, with the rock. Okay, so now you see I've whacked it with the rock again and pounded it in. For this one though, that has only 1 layer of paint, we are going to open a can of Old World Finishing Paint again. I think we'll use the Sapphire again because I really like that color. If I can find something to open it with, which of course I took to another area of the studio to pour off other paint. Hang on. I have a million paint keys. I always have them around except for the place that I need them to be right when I'm sitting down. So as we discussed the other day, Old World Finishing Paint is a true mineral paint, meaning that there's almost no binders in it, so that once it's all, you've created your finish, it must be top coated, otherwise it will not permanently adhere to your surface. So that's what you want to do. Now I'm going to take, this is the Old World Finishing Paint in the color Sapphire. Look at that pretty blue. And we're going to paint it over this. And we're going to make sure to get the paint into those crevices that we just banged into this. And I know this is going to, you're going to ask, what difference does it make what layer I pound the color in? But it kind of does. You can do it in every layer, and what happens is when you come back to distress, different colors will be revealed in the pits. edges here. And if you might notice, I've taped up my sleeves today because I was mixing gallons of paint. I was playing with products, stirring up Old World finishing paint in bigger containers, and my sleeves were very loose and really wanted to go in this. All right, so give me just a second. I'm going to throw that brush in the water. I'm going to throw this in the hot box. We'll distress the other one and we'll come back to this one. Okie dokie. I am back. Grabbed myself a rag while I was there because I almost forgot to have that for the distressing. That wouldn't have been helpful. So again, you can wet or dry distress this, meaning you can use sandpaper like this, and you get a very fine sawdust out of it, and it sands super, super smooth, and you can get it to be like velvet. Oh, hi, Carol. Nice to see you. Oh, thank you so much. Very sweet of you, Carol. I appreciate the kind words. All right, so before I forget what I'm doing, because I forget everything right now. So that was sanded, and that sands, and it sands down like velvet. And I love that part of this, but I also love the wet distress. So wet distressing means that I can wipe this back, remove a lot of the top color, and that's pretty. Get a wonderful antiqued finish on this. Now I'm kind of going uniformly across this because I just like the way this is all exposing itself. And so what's happening with those pits that I created is the top color is grabbing into it really nicely, but it's also exposing the dark colors in there too. So I'm only getting a little tiny bit of the top color in that pitting that I created. Also, it's showing through to the next layer of color, which I really like. And just that alone, look at what a pretty distress that is. Pretty, pretty colors. This is so, oh, hi, Christine. That's very sweet of you. So look at that pretty distress that I got in there. So you can see I've gone all the way to the wood here, and then I've wiped back most of the gray, but not all of it. You can see a little bit of the gray grabbing into the pits, but it also exposes the dark blue in the pits so that you can really embrace the differentiation in the coloring. And really on this one, I think I just want the blue to almost be implied. I mean, the gray to almost be implied, much less of an actual color. So now I'm going to take that one back to the hot box. Yeah, water distress, Christine, water distress. Like butter. I painted this 2 days ago and just distressed it now. And I could paint this and leave it on the shelf for a month and still be able to come back and just easily either wet or dry distress it, because we haven't sealed it, so there's no binders that have gone from the top layer into the base to grab all these paints together. You have to do that though, and we'll cover that now. We'll cover that in a minute. Let me go take this in the hot box. Let me check the other one. It might not be dry enough, so we might shift into top coats before we come back to the next distress level. Okay, that other one needs a few minutes to dry, so we're gonna kind of do some top coat conversations. So, as I said before, these have to be, hey Maddie, oh my gosh, everybody's around today, thank you. So, as I mentioned before, that this product is not good it's not a finished job until you've sealed it. We did glaze this one yesterday, so the glaze penetrated and helped to secure it, but glaze is not a strong enough binding product to actually lock it down. So what we're going to do is we're going to play with a little wax, we're going to play with a little top coat. I'm going to show you how each one works differently. And I like to put a piece of tape across a sample board like this so that you can really see. Well, I'd like to tape it straight is what I'd like to do. But when I do something like this, I like to put a piece of tape on here so that I can see what my original finish was and then what it's going to look like with each top coat. So I'm going to do that on both of these boards, and we're going to play a little bit. All right. Yeah, I can't tape straight to save myself today. I don't know what's going on. It must be the way I'm looking at stuff. My head must be on crooked today. Okay, and now if you don't remember the colors we used the other day, we started out with a Old World finishing paint in Sapphire, layered over it with mustard, and then layered over that with steel, and we wet distressed. It's exactly the same process for both of these, but the difference is how much I removed. So this I removed very little, this I removed much more. This one will look more weathered, this is a little more subtle. Now we have to deal with the top coat. So the first thing I like to cover is wax. Wax is gorgeous on furniture, especially painted furniture with chalk or a mineral style paint. Understand though, wax is a fragile top coat. Wax needs to be reapplied fairly regularly, once a year or so, simply because wax wears off. It doesn't penetrate the product, but what happens is it wears off as a top coat, and you'll start rubbing through the paint instead of rubbing through the wax. Wax also cannot be painted over. True waxes, like our Old World Venetian wax from Faux, true waxes cannot be painted over because they're designed as a resist layer, meaning you put something on it, it resists sticking to it. So it's a resist. However, it does make a gorgeous wood finish. So making your choice of top coats depends on what you're using the piece of furniture for. Would I wax a dining room table or kitchen cabinets? No, not a great choice, not durable enough, not cleanable enough for what I would want either out of a table or out of kitchen cabinets. Those I would put top coats on. But for decorative furniture, side tables, chair legs, headboards, all of that, wax would be lovely. All right, so let's get into some wax here. My hands are a little stiff today. It's been rainy. I love Faux wax, the Old World Venetian wax. Why? Because unlike other brands, it's soft. It's got a creaminess to it that you don't see in other brands. So I can just dip in here a little bit, and we're gonna do that. We're gonna wax both of these just so you can see how the wax takes it. And the wax goes in, and you apply wax with the grain. Okay. God, I love that smell. I know not everybody loves it, but I love the smell of wax. It's like shoe polish. I had a client who actually had me wax her Venetian plaster walls that were synthetic plaster, just so her house would smell like the wax. She cracks me up. So look how nice and rich that made those colors, but we have to let it sit and haze up a little bit because that's what wax does. You need to let it dry before you can come back and buff it. Meaning all the solvents that are in solvent-borne waxes like this one, the solvents have to evaporate and leave behind a nice thin wax film. And then you buff it and it comes to a beautiful satiny shine. So that one we did too. You can sort of catch it right now, but we'll let it cure up and then we'll do the other side. And I need a little container, which I have. I grabbed a million containers and of course I took them out of my own area for reaching. Okay, so now we're gonna take a little, we're gonna make a gold wax. Everybody's like, oh, gold wax. I love gold wax, but I don't need a whole jar of it. Well, no, you don't need a whole jar of it. You can buy Old World Venetian wax, and I'm just taking a little tiny, this is gonna be way more than I need, but I need enough so that you can see what I'm mixing. And I put the jar of, let's see, this is gold leaf metallic powder from SEP. You can use mica powders, you can use gold leaf powders. This is solvent borne, so we should be really good with color in it. And I'm just going to take a little bit of that, mix it in the wax. And then I'm going to grab a stir stick that's just out of my camera reach. And I'm going to roll back into view. And I'm just going to mix this up. And it's going to make a really lovely gold wax. You can add as much or as little to it as you want to, depending on how gold or not gold you want something to be. And how do you know if you have enough? Well, this is how you take your little dip in here and you smear it. You smear it across the surface like that. If I wanted it more opaque, I'd put more gold in it. It looks super opaque in here, but then you can see as I wipe it across the parchment paper here, it's not too gold. And I might actually put a little more in there. Make it even a little more gold. Why? Because I can. Because I'm part magpie, so if it's bright and shiny, I'm gonna like it. It's funny how we were talking with my husband, and as you get older, you seem to become a more distilled version of yourself, meaning whatever it was you were when you were younger, it's much more concentrated now that you're older. Okay, let me check that. Oh, that's nice. That's the color I wanted. Okay, so this side, I can feel the wax on this side. I know I didn't wax. I'm gonna take a little bit of that gold, it's already on there, and I'm gonna rub it on this surface. Oh, that's pretty. So you can see now that side's got a gold sheen to it, whereas this side is more neutral. Both are gorgeous. Now you set it aside, you let it dry, you come back and buff it in a few minutes. So let's see, this side should be fairly dry now. I can come back with the other side of my cheesecloth that I didn't dip into wax and just buff it a little bit. You can also do this with a terry rag. Terry rags are actually really good. That little bit of tooth that they have, for some reason, likes to pop the shine even higher. And so I've got a low, it's gonna be very hard for you to see on the camera, but there is a low satin sheen on here. But if I needed a more durable product on there, I would use, where did I put it? I always keep a little jars of stuff around mixed, already thinned down. I thin my Varnish Plus Satin from Faux Effects with about 10% water. It just lays out better. The product's designed to have it to be thinned up to 10%, if not more, if it thickens. Varnish Plus is my go-to top coat for furniture for very specific reasons. A, it has great self-leveling properties, and B, it's alcohol resistant, which is important because almost every cleaner used has alcohol in it. So if you've got somebody coming in, you know, cleaning down a table, spritzing a little Windex or something near it, the alcohol will not ruin the finish. All right, so I'm making sure, checking to make sure I'm not painting on the side I waxed, because you can feel it by touch. And I'm just brushing this on. Now the sheen on this satin will be higher. Not as high as it is right now, as it's wet and glossy, but it will not be as low sheen as the wax. And again, all right, so we're gonna pull the tape off and I'm gonna show you exactly what I mean by the differences. Okay, so in the center, you see the stripe where I just had the glaze on here. Over here is the wax, which made it a little more subtle and more rich. Over here is the Varnish Plus Satin. Super shiny right now because it hasn't dried. This one, we're going to give a little buff on the, where did I put my terry? A little buff on the wax here. If you see a little glitter on this, ignore it. Yeah, I had glitter on the table when I was doing these things. Sometimes stuff gets a little crossed over in the studio when I'm doing samples. And then there's this. Now, I know people ask this all the time. They want to use wax because they like the way this gold wax thing looks, but they want to eventually be able to paint over this. So if you're going to do this, do that, I suggest a layer of Varnish Plus or AquaGuard first, and then you can wax over that, because then you'll be able to strip the wax off so that you could repaint. This, if you want to repaint this with the wax, the whole finish has to come off because the wax has permeated the product all the way down to the wood, which is exactly what it's supposed to do. Okay, I'll take the tape off. I'm going to show you where we are at with this. Yes. All right, in the center, you see the stripe of the original glazed finish. Over here is with the wax, and this is actually catching the sheen nicely from the light. And then here's the gold. Rich, but still subtle. So this is how you wax a piece of Old World with Old World finishing paint on it, or top coat it. Now we have those two pieces that are still back in the dryer, so I'm gonna go run and grab them. We're gonna finish the distress and glazing of them and talk about that a little more. Okay, so both of these are dry and ready to go. This is the one that we painted that had the celery color on it, and we banged it with the piece of rock and then covered it again with Old World finishing paint and sapphire. Now I'm going to start rubbing back. I love this wet distress. Yes, again, I could easily sand it. I don't want to. I could sand it between layers if I wanted to get a smoother so you wouldn't have a shot at seeing any of those brush marks. If you sand it in between, you could do that. I don't, cause why? I don't want to. It's gonna be my answer. I'm gonna be the old lady who said, I don't want to. I was a little kid who said, I don't want to. Now, obviously, as I distress, the highest points are the easiest to distress and the most natural to distress. But don't forget, your distressing is never exactly even. If it's exactly even, then it looks machine made, and you don't want hand-painted furniture to look like a machine painted it. That's sort of the point of hand-painted furniture. You want this to look natural and organic, and the wear to be appropriate for what you're using it for. Oh, I like this. This is coming out nicely. And the celery actually is a pale green, but it's reading light blue now because of the wash of the other blue over it. I'm just coming into the edge. And again, when I do my samples, I always make sure to go to the edges because I don't want a halo of unfinished look at the edge of the piece. I don't need to picture frame my finish. All right, so I got that there. And I get this down here. And what this did, if you see, the pounding before you do the top layer and then painting over it, the top layer, then the paint settles into the cracks and you get very distinct, dark, distressing and ding marks in here. Whereas on this one, they were much lighter. They barely appeared. They went down to the blue in here and then most of the gray kind of washed out of it. So that's what happens. Each layer you choose to do any distressing. I mean, I could have done one layer, banged it with a rock, done another layer, banged it with a rock, done another layer, banged it with a rock, and each of those divots that I created would expose the paint a little differently once I'm doing the distressing. All right, so we're gonna rub it back a little bit. And then what I'm gonna teach you now, share with y'all now, sorry, you're not my classroom, you're my viewers. So I don't talk to you like you're my students. You're just people interested in what I got to say. So I'm going to take, over here next to me, I have a gallon of Old World finishing paint that is untinted. And I just gotta stir it a little bit because it was sitting on the shelf and I'd stirred it up a lot this morning, but I gotta make sure I got it all completely mixed up for what we need now. I only need just a little bit. Literally just taking a little tiny bit in there. I just gotta make sure there's no lumps that I didn't smooth out before. And you're gonna ask why would I care when you see what I'm gonna do, but it actually makes a big difference not to have the lumps in here for what we're about to do. Because I need the reaction to be uniform. Okay. So what I have in here is the Old World finishing paint. What you also can do is add Old World finishing paint activator. This is a different activator than any of the other Faux Effects ones. It's not the same as Activator 2 or RS Activator. This is Old World finishing paint activator. This is the only thing that activates this product, and this product only activates Old World finishing paint. So what we're gonna do is just put a little tiny bit in. And when you activate anything from Faux Effects, you start with little tiny bits. Okay, I gotta shake it down here. You start with little tiny droplets because activation can happen really fast. And if you over activate it, you can't go in reverse. And what this does is it draws all the contents in here together and it turns it from liquid to paste to then like almost crumbles, and you can create all kinds of killer textures with it. And mine's pretty liquid because I took it off the top of the can, so it may take a little more work to activate it. And there we go. And if you look in there, you might be able to see it's starting to curdle like cottage cheese, which is exactly what it's supposed to do. What happens is the activator draws everything together. But it does it in a way that's controlled and maintains open time. Oh gosh, hi, you guys are all so cute. Thank you for all the nice words. Christine, what will my project be? Right now, I'm just demoing this product because there's always a little confusion. Old World finishing paint is not familiar to a lot of people, so I wanted to make sure it's a product I carry, it's a product I love, and I think it's a product that needs a little more attention given to it. So I'm making sure you all know about it. This is not any specific project, I'm just doing color stories. I put these out in my studio for my customers to look at and get ideas of what they might want to have happen in their home. Now, if I was doing this for a bigger job, I'd mix in the activator, stir, 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 and then walk away from it for 10 minutes because the activators tend to keep working even after you've finished mixing. So this is a very cool thing. I just got to get it to the consistency I want it. And I think this will kind of do for now, although it's not really, I'd like it a little drier. Where did I put that brush? There it is. So the next thing you're going to do is take an old chip brush and make sure the bristles are kind of splayed apart. You don't want them neat and together. This is a newer one. All my old ones just seem to disappear on me. Okay, so I've kind of splayed out the bristles intentionally. And if you've ever looked at some antique furniture, in the corners, they tend to have grunge buildup in them, kind of funky, that looks like dust and dirt, but it's actually intentional. Usually that's done with a product called rotten stone. But you don't have to do that, because you can take a product that you already own, add a little activator to it, thicken it up, and you can even tint it. Actually, that's what I should be doing. I should tint it a little bit. And normally you tint before you activate, but I did not thicken this up so much that it won't tint. I just took a little asphaltum transoxide in there to make it brown, because I don't want it to be white, 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 white. I want it just to be a little grayish. And put a little blue in there, take the brown down. I'll go in the same family. I just threw a little custom blue in that. I just want to gray it out a little bit. Other things to know about activating Old World finishing paint. If you've added too much colorant to it, it won't activate. Doesn't like to be, the colorant stops the activation. It's the pigments don't pull up the same way. So if you've got a lot of pigment in there, it just doesn't want to activate. Even the dark tinted colors that are pre-mixed, they don't like to activate. So plan, if you're going to do this and you needed a dark color, plan to do it and then paint over it with a dark color, because you're not going to get the same activation. All right, so I've sort of created this weird greige color, blue, brown, gray, beige, and I've thickened it up to like a paste. And then I'm taking my chip brush, dipping the tips in, just the tips, and I'm going to pounce like this. And I create that buildup. And you can put on a lot. So we'll go heavily on one side here. Or you can go just a little. You can use smaller brushes and control your application a little better. I'm kind of a wild hand on stuff, so I just like to plot things on. But you can see you get that really nice fine texture, and it will work with all of the Old World finishing paint products, with the exception, like I said, of really dark colors. It just doesn't like to activate the super dark colors. Blow off a little bit of mess there. And this will dry in minutes, and then you glaze right over it. So then you have a consistent glazed look, and what that glaze will do is actually intensify this color. So we're gonna go stick this in the hot box for just a minute. I'll talk about the product. I just need that to dry up enough so that we can glaze right over it, and I can show you how it intensifies that Old World look. Let me flip up here. So it's a very cool product. It has great tricks, great applications to it. I've done many, many creative finishes with this, but I think today and Mondays were just a little bit of an intro, or today and Tuesday's video were a little intro to the possibilities of this product. I think it's an underutilized paint. Like I have always said, chalk paints are to be an addition to your repertoire, not an end-all be-all. Sorry, closing the can. This is an old can. It's not a gold label product anymore from Faux Effects. For anybody who is looking at that and wondering, it is silver label. It's available for everybody to purchase. But I think it's a great product. I think it's terribly underutilized because people don't really understand it as well as they understand some of the other chalk paints on the market. But it's so simple to use and it's so easy to clean up. I literally spilled a ton of it all over my floor here, but because there's no real binders, really heavy binders in it, just wiped it right off. It's on my shirt, a little bit up under here. I'm gonna throw this in a wash, it'll rinse right out. So but that's also the thing you have to know about it so that you can seal it properly. This is not a product meant to be used without some kind of top coat on it. It's so cool though. If you sand it, sands like glass. If you use it, it will, the tint base thin down, it seals grain so that the next layer you paint over it, you won't pop grain on raw wood. It's terrific that way. And you can get so many finishes. Sorry, I keep dropping things, so I'm trying to pick them up while I talk to you. I think this is one of the best products that very few people know about, and I suggest everybody give it a little shot. Now we carry everything here, all the Faux Effects Old World finishing paint products we have here. I do not carry the mica powders, but I'm sure you all probably have some. If you're anything like me, you probably have shelves full of stuff. So we're gonna get that drying in a second. We're gonna glaze it and you're gonna see how that activator works. The activator is the coolest thing. It works with any color, like I said, except the dark colors, because dark colors are dark and pigment does not like to work with the activator. Just a matter of what it is. I have used this on cabinetry, beds, furniture, I did something for my dog with it, I think. I think I painted his dog bed with it. I'm trying to remember. I don't know. I've done so much stuff with this product, and I still think it's one of the most missed products that Faux Effects carries, and I love it, so I want to promote it to you. Suggest everybody give it a shot. That's probably dry enough now for me to go grab this glaze. Hang on. I have customers who have put foil on their piece and then used Old World finishing paint over it and distressed through to the foil. Coolest look ever. I mean, there's great, this is just the jump off. So let me put back down. We're gonna look at these two pieces as I glaze them. I have my glaze left over from the other day. I didn't even put a lid on it. The open time is excellent on this product. This is our Artsyville glaze that I mixed asphaltum transoxide and a little custom blue faux cream colors into. So I'm just gonna brush it on generously. And you don't have to glaze brown. You don't have to glaze at all. If you like this is what you want it to look like, then just top coat it or wax it. It'll get deeper, but you don't have to change the color if you don't want to. I just like the glazes because when I'm going for an old world look, I need to take those bright colors down and patina them. So that's gonna sit on that for a second. That's gonna come in here. And this glaze also will then penetrate the wood area a little bit and deepen the wood color that's exposed. And I've done these finishes where I've wiped back almost every last bit of paint that I put on it and glazed over that, and oh my gosh, it was just gorgeous. So this is a super controllable product. You can determine just how much or how little distressing and everything else you want on it. You're not limited on time, you have work time. Let me grab some cheesecloth. And let's pull the other, I'm closing in the space around me like a child. All right, so let me wipe this back. And again, I can pounce it to give it a sort of stipply look, or I can wipe it to give it a smoother look. And look, there's how the activated Old World finishing paint grabs that glaze and really has that cool old look on it. So I'm gonna wipe that back. I kind of like it a little pounced on here in a few spots. I'll let that one be pounced. This one I'll wipe back, it'll read differently. And as you can see, it's going to be a little different. The blue is much more intense on this one. Get the edges so I can hold this up. But again, that texture in the corner just adds the age crustiness of it. So again, you can make it as little crust or as much as you want, but that's so pretty. And again, when this dries, I would top coat it either with wax or with an acrylic top coat. Probably, you know, knowing me, it would be Varnish Plus because that's what I use. All right, everybody, reach over. I can't get that far. Sorry for the faces. Okay, everybody, I am done with this for today. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Leave them here in the comments. I always go back over everything. I will list all the colors on both these samples and these samples so that you know all the colors I used. And if you have questions of how I applied it or how I distressed it or everything else, don't hesitate to ask. That's what I'm here for. All right, everybody, sprinkle the love here. Take that little button that says with the arrow and sprinkle, distribute, use the other S words that we're not allowed to use here on Facebook anymore so that we can start doing some contests. I got contests planned, but we need a little more, you know, love moving out. So everybody have a great day. I'll talk to you later. Bye. Okay, it won't let me do it. I have to wipe my finger off first. Sorry.